Hello again, Pastor Michael Jarbo here. Welcome to another edition of Soul Care, conversations to help renew the spirit. I'm glad you're here. Check out today's episode. Well, hello everybody, and welcome again to another Soul Care Pastors Edition. And today it's my pleasure to get to introduce my friend, Ginny Griggs, Pastor Ginny Griggs today to the Soul Care Show. Ginny, I mean, I think you're the last one. Say the best for the last.
Of course.
You know, we might leave Jim McPhail in here. He you know what? It could be, and really it will just be a blooper reel of him just saying the most ridiculous things possible.
That would certainly be the best. Yeah, I think you need to do Jim after this.
I think we both can agree that may just be the best.
Definitely going to get the most views out of all of this.
Who knew that one would go viral? The
Right.
Jim McPhail would be the viral video from Facebook. Yeah. Well, great. I'm going to ask you a few questions. We're just, we had that interview with Dr. Brad Morgan, who starts next Wednesday, July 1st. So crazy. Can you believe July 1st is?
No.
What in the world? And
what is time anymore?
Yeah. we did that interview with him, and it was a lot of success. And people were like, yeah. And then someone emailed me like, it'd be cool if you did that with the other pastors. And so we have been, and it's been great to kind of go beyond just Sunday morning or a Bible study and just hear a little bit more about these individuals, our clergy team. So first question for you, Ginny, is like, a lot of people ask pastors why this profession, why and how. So just can you share a little bit more about your call to ministry and how did you really get your start?
Yeah. So some people probably heard this before because I think, we all kind of share in Sunday schools and stuff like that. But I grew up in church, was a leader in the youth group and all that stuff, was really involved in church, but never thought, oh, this is what I want to do professionally, is be here and be part of this. It's just kind of something that I did. And then when I went to college, I majored in psych, and I had a bunch of different plans about what I wanted to do with that. But throughout college, from my freshman year, started feeling this nudge, which I would now identify as the Holy Spirit. I don't know if I would have then, but I was like, I just feel like God is asking me to do something more. And I didn't know what that meant. And so I would feel it at different times, and I would kind of respond in whatever way I could. Like, okay, I added a religious studies minor. Okay, I did this. Nudge. And it just sort of kept coming back over time. And at some point, I had both of my pastors at my college church, both of whom you're acquainted with, know very well. They hadn't talked about it together, but they approached me separately and said, hey, have you ever thought about going into ministry? Have you ever thought about going to seminary? We see gifts in you that we think would be really well suited for this, and this is why. Again, totally separately, and it was like very different conversations with each one because they're very different people. And so that sort of started this journey for me of exploration, like, okay, what does it even mean? I grew up Methodist, but I don't know what it takes to become a Methodist pastor. I have no idea. And so, that was many years, the whole process, but that's kind of how it started. Was feeling that internally and then having other people sort of validate that externally as well. Yeah.
That's really good. Two things come to mind. Youth groups, and this is not a dig on youth groups, because like talking about polity, talking about the process is not the sexiest thing to talk about, right? Maybe those individuals who really like stick out, but we just don't learn a lot about the call process in our youth. I mean, confirmation. I remember kind of those like little rhythms, but for both of us, it sort of took people and the same people for you and I, which is a cool connection in our stories, to help to really speak into our lives. And I just like, you look back and you think about the people that would say stuff to you, and you're like, why did they make that mention? And today you want to go back and like cry and hug them and be like, thank you for saying something,
Right. Well, and of course, it's funny because I look back, I think I've told her this, but my mom was the first person who said, do you think that you might want to go to seminary? And I was in high school. And so I was like, no, Mom, why would I, why would I want to do that? That sounds terrible. And then, here I am. So she was the first person. So
I didn't know it was high school, Ginny.
Mm-hmm.
High school, yeah. She said that?
She said, yeah. And I think it was because we had done, in my youth group, we had done a series on world religions, and we had learned about all the different religions. And I was always very into that, which is why I did the religious studies thing in college. It wasn't just Christianity. It was like everything, learning about all of them. And I think she saw how into that I was and was like, well, maybe you would want to like be a religious leader. And I was like, no. And alas.
Here you are today. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
Golly.
Yeah.
So good. Awesome. Well, yeah, for those of you who don't know also, yeah, Ginny and I share very similar mentors in our lives. And Ginny and I knew each other before, before coming to Memorial Drive for sure, before our seminary journeys really began. And it is wild to see how things have shifted and changed over the years. There's a free bird. Yeah, I know. There's a Freebirds in College Station, Texas, which I think Ginny doesn't remember this conversation. That's an inside joke that everyone knows. Where we had lunch and talked about ministry and all that stuff. And
probably like 10 years ago or more is when we met. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I think right around 10 years. That's wild. And now we are here. We're old, Ginny.
We're old now. Yeah.
Real old. Okay. So you already in your story about your call shared and talked about people who have been important in your life. I really fell in love at the beginning of quarantine with this proverb, that African proverb that says a person becomes a person through other people. And I think that remains the same today. It's like I'm whom I am because of the people who have made impacts in my life along the journey of my faith and call to ministry. So I know you can't. The list is long, but maybe share who is someone that made a real significant impact in your life that comes to mind this morning.
Yeah, I mean, definitely those people I named earlier, but I think I could talk about my grandmother, my dad's mom, who passed away in 2018. It was kind of one of those things, like she was my grandmother and I loved her very much. But it's like after someone is gone, you begin to kind of put pieces together, like remember all these things together and realize the impact that they had on you, which maybe you didn't realize the significance before. And she was just such a cool lady, and she lived to be 92, and she was born in Japan and came here, met my grandfather. He was in the army during the war, and met him and came back here, and just like this 5-foot little lady charging through life, like didn't, she learned English, but it was always a struggle, as an adult to learn a new language. But had 7 kids, raised them, like my grandfather was deployed off and on, and just, it wasn't like she sat around and taught us life lessons, it said like, these are the things I want you to remember. But it's like hearing her stories and knowing just her resilience. And most of all, the way that she was able to laugh at herself and not take herself like too seriously, even given all the hardships that she had faced and the challenges and the struggles, just the way she could still laugh and find joy in anything and be like, none of this is that serious. Like, you just have to laugh. I think she is someone, even though she's the grandparent who lived furthest away from me growing up and probably the one I saw the least often, she is has had a huge impact on my character and on my family, and just like, I think how we approach challenges and the things that we value most highly and hold most dear. A lot of it is because of her.
Awesome answer. And I think you have the bulletin from her memorial service in your office, and so I get to see it often, and it's cool that you have that reminder of that influence in your life, so near to you. in that way. So awesome. Great answer. I was like, she can talk about Jason or her mom. And you went with, and did you call her Mimi? Is that right? Awesome. Awesome. Okay. We moved from the sentimental, beautiful. This is just a pure Michael Jarbo-esque interview, right? Like just diving all over the place. You never know. Gosh, Ginny, we've seen some funny things in our ministry together. Yeah, good Lord. But it's always good to know, like in times like these, it's always good to reminisce and laugh. And for those of you who don't know, Pastor Ginny Griggs has one of the best minds of remembering great moments. And with the use of social media to have like flashbacks from a couple of years ago. I mean, like that technology allows us to really laugh hard at stupid things that we all did. At funny things that mainly stupid for me, not stupid for you. This has been let me tell you what, this has maybe been the hardest question for the pastors to answer as I've done my reflection. But like, what is it? What's one of the funnier moments or funny moments that you can share?
There's a lot that you already know that I feel like we can't share with y'all until we leave. So just wait, and then we'll tell you the stories later.
That's right.
But so there are a couple that I can think of that have to do with either people like not knowing I was a pastor, or related to appearance, I guess. So one was my very first Sunday, and I don't know who this was, so they are probably still here. Hello to you, wherever you are.
Hello to you.
You'll know it was you. But it was my first Sunday, and Jim McPhail, was taking me around before the 8:15 service in the sanctuary and introducing me to people. Of course, like they all know who I am. I have no idea who any of them are, and we went up to someone and he said, "This is Ginny, our new minister," and the person we were talking to said, "You mean this child?" I was like, "I'm standing right here."
I'm right here.
I'm standing right. I was like, "Hello, yes, it's me. I'm 26. I mean, I was, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, you were young, but not a child.
It was funny. But a similar thing with someone who didn't know my role here. Now at VBS, we collectively serve on the music team, right?
Right.
But previously I had led some groups of kids, and one year I was co-leading a group of second graders with another adult. And this other adult does not go to church here, but she has her kids in VBS here every year and volunteers. But I guess we had just never encountered each other before, and I guess she just missed the fact that I was a pastor on staff here. I'm pretty sure it was on my name tag, but I think she just missed it. And so we're in this group of rising second graders, so they're like 7, right?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And I had my Aggie ring on, and so she was asking me, "Oh, did you just graduate, or are you going back to school in the fall?" And at this point I'm like 28 and I've been on staff here for a few years. And I was trying to think, I was like, I don't know how to answer. I don't know how do I gently correct her? And one of the kids said, "We see her preach. She is our pastor." It was so funny and so sweet. And he was like really proud. And it's Ross is his name. And like, we know each other and we say hi on Sunday mornings and that, but I will never not think of that when I see him. It was just like, he saved me from having to like,
wow.
college.
Yep.
So
leave it to the rising second grader to save the
day.
Yeah, man. That's the age piece is so hard. We just and trying to accept that authority in situations when we are, coming into hospital situations. I've had people second guess me being a pastor going into a hospital setting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just like when you're in your mid-20s to take that on, because the idea of pastor is this, older person. Certainly couldn't be us because we're children, but the things people will say, it's It's fascinating. So good answer. Probably answered it the best of all the pastors. So take that, Colin Bagby, right? Uh, I said, take that, Colin Bagby. I said, I'm just dissing on Colin Bagby.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I'm always for that. Yeah, that's one diss.
Okay. Roller coaster, baby. I mean, come on. Funniest moment now, maybe a more poignant moment. What's one of the more powerful moments in your ministry that comes to mind?
Mm-hmm. So I've written about this, and I talked about this at the board of ordained ministry, actually. But I will never forget walking over the first Sunday that we had church after Hurricane Harvey, walking over to Chris and Melissa Simmons' house, and they were moving out of their house, moving all their stuff out because it had flooded. And I walked over there with some communion elements from where we had worship at the Journey, and we took communion together in their kitchen and just cried, and it was just a super holy thing. And like I said, when I went to the board and they asked me about sacrament and what it means as a deacon to like bring the table, into the world, I talked about that, and have never had that guess like illustrated in such a poignant way. That's a moment that will always stay with me. I think there are a lot of moments also with kids in worship, and like realizing that kids are watching and are learning and are taking this in. Every time I hear a little girl especially say like, oh, maybe I could be a pastor someday, or there are little kids with the pipe cleaners in the children's bags during worship, and some of the little girls, especially at the Journey, they'll fashion them into like the headset mics that we wear like when I'm preaching and stuff, and they're over there wearing their little mic. I'm like, this is incredible. So I think about that a lot, and how important it is for kids to see people like them leading in the church and leading in different ways. And so every time I get to bear witness to that, I feel just so blessed to be able to do what I do.
And a lot of times it is just bearing witness to it, isn't it? Like not fabricating it, not like nicely preparing it, putting it into a little ball. It just happens so organically when the spirits move. Awesome. Good answer. When you say this stuff, my mind begins to swirl. It's just those moments, it's the unexpected that really begins to, where you can find a divine in those moments that's moving. So before we move into our rapid 11 questions speed round, why use one word when you can just say rapid, when you can also use rapid 11 questions speed round?
Why use one word when 5 will do?
A Michael Jarbo story. Yeah.
That's my memoir title.
Just add a little colon, the Michael Jarbo story. But before we get there, I want to just check in on you, my friend. How is your soul? It's a question John Wesley would ask his pastors and colleagues, and we still ask it today. How are you doing in the midst of all that's going on in our world? And it's fascinating that when I asked Colin this question, it was pre-George Floyd.
Yeah.
We were still at our home. I mean, we're both up at the church, socially distanced. It was before that was happening. So it just showed, that was 7 weeks ago. And now, our world has shifted and changed in so many ways. So I want to just check in with you. How's your soul?
Yeah. I think it has helped my soul, like you said, to be back up here a little bit as we've kind of faced our staff back in. I didn't realize, and Colin has talked about this too, we're both introverts, Colin and I, but I didn't realize how much energy I do draw from getting to work with people I love every day. Like, obviously I know like we have a great time and I love you guys, and but I didn't realize how energizing that is for me. It's like, normally it's like, I go home and it's like, okay, now I have a little alone time, but because I've been around people all day. But once I no longer had that, I just realized how important that was. So that was really difficult for me. So it's been good to be here. And obviously it's just the staff, like we all miss the congregation, miss worship. And I think especially for me, being a person who puts those services together and coordinates them, it's a really different ball game than it was before. And so I'm definitely still working through some grief and some loss with that, and it's like every day is a new day. Then given just the state of our country as well, and the conversations and the events around racial justice and injustice, it's heavy. It's it's a lot for everyone to carry and be immersed in. It's a lot to lead through, but at the same time, I feel like there is a shift happening. I feel like this is a turning point, and like an awakening that's really important. And it's painful in a lot of ways. Awakening are painful for a lot of people, but it may sound weird to say I feel hopeful about it, but I do feel hopeful about it. The ways that I've seen God beginning to move in hearts and in lives, like you said earlier, in ways that I wouldn't have expected,
right,
has been encouraging. And so I think it's meaningful that these things are occurring at the same time, and in ways that we probably won't understand until we look back later. So in it, even as we're all carrying the heaviness of that, I feel like there's an energizing and there's a hope for change and for a new day to come. So I'm comforted by that as well. Yeah.
And it's okay to have grief and hope
as
companions, right? I mean, they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Walter Brueggemann talks about that as the prophetic imagination, right? Like you like to hold lament and hope together at the same time. That's what it means. So, yeah.
Very good. Ginny, you passed the first round. Congratulations. You did it. You made it through. And now it's the round that has trampled pastors in the past. Speaking of Colin, he just crumbled during this. Yeah, it was good. All right. It's time for the rapid 11 question speed round. Beep, beep, beep. Here we go. I'm going to ask you 11 questions. I'm going to invite you to respond as you will. Here we go. First question. Pastor Ginny, on the blank. Ministry is?
Different every day.
Next question. You are called to be brave, but your fear is real. What do you do?
Like, what's the first, what do I do to like psych myself up?
Yeah. Or if it's like, what's that?
What do I need? I often say things to myself like, you can do anything for an hour. Or however long the thing is that I really don't want to do. I'm like, you can do anything for an hour. You can do anything for 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I do that too, especially in exercise.
Yes,
like running. I'm like, I can make it to the end of that block.
I can do it. Yeah.
Do it. You can do this. Okay, good. All right. You're not alone. Very good. Oh my gosh. That's so real for me.
Yeah.
Ginny, what's something people often get wrong about you?
Oh, I think at first people think I'm shy maybe because I'm quiet, but I just take a while to get comfortable. And then once I'm comfortable, I talk a lot. So.
Yes. Yeah. The last TV show you binge watched?
Oh, I just finished The West Wing for the first time ever.
You finished it. It's done.
I finished it.
Incredible.
I wanted to start it over immediately. But I didn't. Yeah.
You love it that much, you want to restart. Oh, the characters in that, so good. What's your favorite movie?
Love Actually.
Did I know that?
Maybe
Man,
not.
That's a really good choice.
Yeah, I feel like you and I both kind of just watch the same movies over and over again. So it's not that I don't like other movies, it's just I haven't watched a lot.
Me too. We don't have a very big movie. Yeah,
no.
Compared to like Colin or some of the other, I mean,
Ask.
Oh my gosh, that Love Actually is so good. A concert that you'll never forget.
Mm, the Avett Brothers at Red Rocks. Mm-hmm.
You are a very big reader, so this question is ever changing. What are you reading right now?
Oh, right now I usually have 3 books in rotation, point of interest. I have a fiction, a nonfiction, and a book of poetry at any given time. So right now, you didn't know where you were getting this. Nope, is not right.
Nope.
Sorry. I'm reading Between the World and Me. I am reading The Vanishing Half, which is by Britt Bennett. And I'm reading a book of poetry that Colin loaned me by Richard Wilbur, who was a poet laureate.
Great answer.
Yay.
Yeah, that was a soft toss home run. Yeah. Ginny, on when it comes to reading. Okay, if we were to go by your bedside table right now, what would we find? What's on your bedside table?
Stack of books, a lamp, a water from last night, a Post-it note with Psalm 37:3 written on it, which is what I'm talking about in my daily word coming up. So wow. A teaser.
Thank you for that teaser for the daily word next week. Good Lord. But like, I'm also not surprised, Ginny, that your desk, your bedside table is that organized, that you've got the post-it. I mean, it just, and it's all probably a lot. I mean,
it is kind of lined up. Yeah. It's like when I turn out the light, I see the Post-it note, or like when I turn it on the light.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Very good. Very good. Give me a snapshot of a moment in your life that brings you joy.
So every summer for a week, we would go to the Florida family and 2 other families, and there were 14 of us that would rent a big house. Yeah, at least 14, maybe more, like 6 kids, all these adults that would rent this big house and stay together July 4th week every year growing up. And that was the only vacation we ever took. And when I think about some of just the most carefree, the happiest times of my life, it was those weeks.
Awesome. What are you deeply grateful for right now in your life?
I am deeply grateful for my friends, and that's a really simple answer, but it's true. I don't know if you ever just step back and kind of look at your relationships and think about how lucky you are to have people who deeply know you and who you deeply know. That is something I think that we take for granted a lot. Those connections that we spend our whole lives trying to create and nurture and find those connections. And so I've just been taking some moments lately to think about how much I appreciate those.
Great. Final question. You've made it, Ginny. Last question. Question 11. What do you hope is the first thing God says to you when you get to heaven?
Oh, I hope God tells me you can have a nap. Great. Go rest.
Go rest. Go rest.
Nap as long as you want. You don't have to set an alarm.
It all goes back to sleep. We all just
true Enneagram 9.
Yeah, that's right. We all just need a nap. Good Lord. Ginny, what a great time. Thank you for answering these questions. I feel like I've learned more about you. Hopefully you all who are watching have learned more. It's good for the soul to know more about our pastors and their lives. And thank you so much for sharing today, and hope you have a wonderful weekend, Ginny. Thanks so much.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out Soul Care. Join us again next week at noon on Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.